Hey, thank you for clicking this video. Just a friendly reminder, this is a clip from my previous live stream. And if you want to catch me live in action so you can join the conversation, just remember I live stream Sunday through Friday. That's 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And I'm going to post the time right here because I know some people don't want to Google. So nevertheless, go ahead and enjoy this video. So tell me if you agree with this. This might be a hot take. I don't know. I think I kind of know my audience a little bit. Tell me what you think right here in the comments right now. Majority of people like you and I, okay, would not have such a big problem with millionaires and billionaires existing if they paid their taxes according to their wealth. If they paid X amount of taxes, you can figure out the number. There's a lot of ideas and theories and historical data that a lot of people would like to go to. So take your pick. But we wouldn't have such a big issue. We wouldn't be saying eat the rich, which sounds crazy. But hey, we hungry over here. So hey, stay away. We wouldn't have such a big deal if these greedy people paid their share according to their wealth. Be a billionaire. Go for it. Sky's the limit. But make sure you're paying according to. Okay, I shouldn't be paying as much as you, and you shouldn't be able to hide your money and live off loans. No, a little too weird. and we can even go back throughout history, not even just today. People do not like when other individuals are hoarding their wealth and exploiting other people to maintain and increase their wealth. We can look at any point in history. People are going to naturally fight against that. This is not nothing new that we're dealing with here. Nothing new. Pick up a book and read something. Educate yourself. This has all happened before. And when it comes to people like Elon Musk, which, hey, he's on his way to being a trillionaire, okay? So we got to pick on Mr. Elon Musk, okay? When it comes to someone like Elon Musk, we're not only mad at him because he's consolidating wealth to himself. He has more wealth than 59% of the lowest Americans. That is crazy. He has more wealth than 3 major countries. Crazy. Should not be happening. But this is what makes it even worse. This is what makes people really despise people like Elon Musk. Here you go. 1, not only is he one of the richest, wealthiest person in the world, he has the audacity to collect a little over $38 billion from government subsidies. Now, you can tell me all the excuses. Well, he's a businessman. Oh, he needs this money. He needs that money. Oh, he creates jobs. Hey, guess what? You're the richest person on earth. Use your own damn money. Stop using my taxpayers' money to make you more money. That's not how that works. We can use that money in better places. Trust me. We could just go outside, spin in a circle, and find anywhere to use $38 billion other than your companies that's only going to make you more money. That's number 1. Number 2, Musk posted a meme referring to benefit recipients as part of the parasite class. Mr. Welfare King himself has the nerve to call people using government subsidies because they're poor, they don't have money, as parasites. Who the fuck is this guy? He looks like a parasite. I will step on him like one. Crush him. Trust me. I will. I have. But nevertheless, number 3, Musk has targeted agencies and programs oriented towards the poor, domestic and internationals, for cuts, citing inefficiency or perceived abuse. And how did that go so far? Exactly. Found no abuse. We don't have no records, no proof, but yet they're cutting from the poor. That is crazy. And last but not least, while doing all of this craziness, he has the nerve to not only be an immigrant, not born in America. If you at least gonna screw us over, at least be born from here. I mean, damn. But not only is he an immigrant, he overstayed his school visa. That's the world that we're living in. And now you shouldn't be asking yourself, why are people so upset and angry and wanting to eat these rich folks? That is why, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's go ahead, take a look at this debate here. This is Kevin O'Leary. Once again, Shark Tank. I used to watch the show a lot, and then I realized who this guy was and literally stopped watching it because it makes me sick to my stomach that this asshole here has the nerve to try to dictate American politics. And then we got Scott Galloway, which I need to look this guy up. I don't want to say I like this dude and I see him as an ally. I need to look him up. Make sure he's not some crazy, person. I've done that a few times. I learned to research first before I start like, hey, this is my BFF here. But what he is saying is amazing. It was like a beautiful song to my ears. Okay? Like you think Mariah Carey is saying. What he has to say is better than that. And that's not clickbait. Okay? But let's go ahead and get into this conversation.
One of my posts of complaint in which I copied in Elon in their promo announcement. So I felt very proud that I almost single-handedly persuaded British Airways to get with the movement. But Starlink is an incredible thing. Notwithstanding the insufferable numbskull comment, what is your view of Elon Musk? Is he worth this kind of money? Is he going to save us or destroy us?
So first off, I've been called worse. Look, I've served on 7 public company boards. The hardest thing a board member has to do is compensation. You want to keep the CEO motivated. At the same time, CEO pay's gone from 30 to 50 times the average salary workers to 300. And the reason why is because you end up knowing the CEO, he or she is very likable, and then a consulting firm comes in and does an assessment of similar sized companies, and they go 0 to 100 compensation for a similar company, 50 being average. And generally what happens is you say, well, Bob or Lisa is a good guy or gal, they're doing a good job, we'll pay them at 70, which might not sound weird. But when you go 1.4 times the average, and by the way, the average is pretty high for CEO compensation, you end up with an exponential effect where CEOs have massively outpaced the American worker in terms of compensation. I think I would have a difficult time philosophically wrapping my head around a compensation package that could be $1 trillion. Having said that, I think one of the wonderful things about capitalism is there aren't really a ceiling or upward limits on your compensation. I think that's a powerful motivator and one of the reasons people immigrate to the United States. And philosophically, I actually don't have a problem with this. Kevin was saying, if he creates $7 to $8 trillion in incremental value, that he's going to get, I guess, about 12 or 15% of it. That's not an unreasonable trade philosophically. If Tim Cook went to Apple shareholders and said, I want $1 trillion if I make this company worth 15 trillion, not 4, I would argue that the shareholders wouldn't be outraged or wouldn't be, irrational to consider that. Where I have an issue is the following, and that is, I want someone to make $1 trillion. I just think they should pay a greater tax rate. And that is someone like Elon Musk, who has become very wealthy based on his genius and his risk-taking, but also on tax credits funded by middle-class taxpayers. When we're spending $7 trillion on $5 trillion in receipts, the bottom line is, do we have to cut spending or increase tax revenue? The answer is yes. And corporations are paying their lowest taxes since 1939. The 25 wealthiest families pay an average tax rate of 6%. Elon Musk is now worth more than the bottom 52% of households combined.
That's
I think that
crazy.
we just need greater incremental marginal tax rates. And also, I think what you want is taxes that are least taxing. And what Daniel Kahneman, who's an intellectual role model of mine, states in his wonderful work is that once you get to a certain point of wealth, above that, you don't get any incremental happiness. So the fact that Elon Musk can kind of piece out and become a resident of Texas and end up, and I've done this personally. When I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars in my 30s and 40s, I've always made an exceptional living. I've been very blessed, and I'm not modest. I'm hardworking and talented. I was paying 40+% in tax rates. When I made the jump to Lightspeed and had enough capital to start investing and became very wealthy by most people's standards, my tax rate plummeted. And I
Mm.
don't think that's the way to operate a nation. I think you need a progressive tax structure. So I
Now, normally, and I still don't. I don't want to say I don't care what wealthy people have to say. Just like celebrities, like you might be able to find a few good ones, like D.L. Hughley and things like that. But for the most part, it's like you are out of touch. You don't know what the common folk go through. You don't understand the experience, at least in 2025. So shut up. But once again, don't know his wealth, but I'm assuming he's a very wealthy guy. I do appreciate and respect that he even knows that he needs to be taxed more. He knows that, and he's agreeing to it. So, nevertheless, this might be one of the last rich people we eat, but I like him, and that's what we need. I don't need no more billionaires and millionaires, but I just need them to agree to that, and I think he does. Tax that ass.
would love to see someone make $1 trillion. I just think we need to go back to the last century where we were charging 50, 60% plus tax rates because that person isn't going to get any less happy. But if you're able to reinvest that money in new technologies that support American households, education, universal child care, I think that you end up with a lot more civic prosperity. In sum, I want them to make $1 trillion. I just want them to pay more than 15 or 18% tax rates. And Kevin mentioned Canada and China. I would argue that these sclerotic, irrational tariffs have thrust a lot of nations who traditionally weren't friends with China, have thrust them into their hands. The most chilling image of 2025 was Modi, Xi, and Putin all acting like they're at a fraternity party, and it didn't need to happen. Japan, South Korea, and China are having trade talks for the first time in a long while. The Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, is on a tour through Asia. 24% of Chinese exports used to come into China. Now it's 17. They're diversifying away from us. And effectively, these tariffs were supposed to inspire a flurry of deal making, and they are. Unfortunately, the deal making is outside of the U.S. People are reconfiguring their supply chains to avoid the U.S., who they feel they can't count on. They don't understand the tariff policy. It seems to be based on the blood sugar level of a president and his chief economist, who, quite frankly, is citing people who don't exist in economic papers. And we have seen throughout economic history, tariffs are an elegant way to reduce prosperity. As it relates to Canada, 70% of their exports come to the U.S. It's like that Animal House line. You effed up, you trusted us. They have based a big portion of their economy on good relationships with the U.S. It's the largest undefended border in the world. And yet we have decided to declare economic warfare on them. And it's not only, there's nothing, the only thing worse than fighting with your allies is fighting without them. They've been amazing allies for us. And to think that we're just, quite frankly, messing with them this much is just not very smart. In addition, if you just look at free trade, I agree with Kevin, we should have free trade with Canada. We Americans asymmetrically benefit. They import into the U.S. low margin products, lumber, petroleum, oil, operating margins of 10 to 20%, companies that trade at a P multiple of 20. We import into Canada high margin products, iPhones, cars, electronics that have 30 to 40 points of operating margin with companies that trade at multiples of a P multiple of 30. In other words, for every dollar we make from products we ship into Canada, we get about $3 in shareholder value. They get about one. So if there's any asymmetry in free trade that accretes to one partner, it asymmetrically benefits the U.S. So not only is this waving our middle finger and an amazing ally, it's just economically stupid what we have done. So in addition, if you want to talk about a great ally, I love the question posed to his friend, Warren Buffett, a Holocaust survivor. He said, how do you know if someone's your friend? And she responded, she asked herself, would they hide me? I mean, that's a really puncturing question. And here's the bottom line. As it relates to America and Canadians being our friend, they hit us. 1979 Iranian hostage crisis, Canadian diplomats held Americans, hid them, and then got them out of the country safely, and then stayed behind at huge personal risk to them. It's just striking to me that we would be this damaging and this hostile towards a nation that has been such an incredible friend of the United States. So I would argue that the Trump administration tariff policies are not only inconsistent and unpredictable, they're just baseline stupid.
Hey, we done talked about tariffs more than this channel, my audience likes. But we already know, and this is something a Google search will tell you, okay? They do not work in the hands of somebody like Trump. Trump is not even a good businessman to begin with. So that's only damaging the prosperity of this country already. So the American people, you and I, are getting screwed in two different ways. We're now paying double taxes, essentially. That's what tariffs do, tax the American people. And now, greedy, wealthy, rich people, selfish people are still consolidating more and more of the wealth. We do not need them, and we need change ASAP. And once again, that is why I'm a progressive. So, hey, call me crazy, but tax that ass. I might have to make that a shirt. Easily.
Let's see how you do under pressure. I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy. Extra, extra.